One of the most mysterious objects among the sacred relics displayed at the Topkapi Palace Museum is the sword of the Prophet David, Dawud Alayhissalam. According to the inscriptions engraved on it, this sword will one day be in the hands of the Mahdi and Isa, and they will use it to slay the Dajjal, the one-eyed Antichrist. Some even believe that this sword might have the ability to travel through time, based on the inscriptions it bears. Researchers have been attempting for years to decipher the codes written on this sword, as all clues seem to point toward one thing: a future date. Topkapi Palace was the center of Ottoman power for centuries. Today it stands in all its grandeur on the heights of Sarayburnu in Istanbul, known as the Topkapi Palace Museum. This museum houses incredible artifacts and sacred relics of immense value. Among these relics, one in particular has captured the attention of numerous researchers for years due to its mysteries. This is the sword of the Prophet David, Dawud Alayhissalam, and its mysterious inscription. When you hear what is written on the copper plaque, you will be quite surprised. According to these inscriptions, the sword has passed through the hands of many significant figures, including Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Isa alayhi salam. It is also connected to major events that are said to occur in the future. One claim, in particular, is especially intriguing: the date of the end of times, known only to Allah Azza wa Jal. For this reason, I don't believe that the encrypted inscriptions on this sword refer to the date of the end of times. However, there is a widespread belief that this sword holds a secret related to the final days. A researcher who worked on these inscriptions for a long time even claimed to have discovered this date. We will soon examine all the details, because beyond the date of the end of times, it seems that this sword is indeed tied to the apocalypse. It is believed to be the weapon that will be used to kill the Dajjal, who will appear shortly before the Day of Judgment. Before we delve into all these mysteries, let's take a journey back in time to discover the incredible history of this sword and how it came to the Topkapi Palace. In 1517, the Ottoman Sultan Yavuz. Sultan Selim rarely slept at night, spending those hours reading and discussing science with his companion, Hasan Khan. One night, Hasan Khan fell asleep, leaving the Sultan alone. In the morning, Yavuz Sultan Selim asked Hasan Khan about his dreams. Hasan Khan replied that he had not had any dreams. However, the steward present, Hasan Ah, excitedly recounted his own dream from that night. He said, "In my dream the door was knocked, and I saw 4 people dressed in Arab garments standing at the door. One of them held your white flag and told me they had come by the order of the Prophet to announce that the services of Mecca and Medina were entrusted to Yavuz Sultan Selim. The person who spoke to him introduced himself as Ali bin Abu Talib and asked him to convey his greetings to Selim Khan." Upon hearing this, Yavuz Sultan Selim shed tears. Deeply moved by this dream, Yavuz Sultan Selim prepared himself and set off for a campaign in Egypt. On Friday, February 20th, 1517, the sermon was delivered in his name in Cairo, marking the beginning of his authority over Egypt and the Hijaz. Many sacred relics were then entrusted to Yavuz Sultan Selim. Among these relics were the golden pipe of the Kaaba, the turban of the Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, the sacred cloak of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his sandals, his bow, and the sword of David alayhi salam. Thus, the sword of David alayhi salam, accompanied by a copper plaque stating that its final owner would be Isa, who would kill the Dajjal with it, was brought to Istanbul. This is where the mysteries begin. In 1953, the former director of the Topkapi Palace Museum, Tahsin Öz, published a book titled Hırkayı Saadet Dairesi ve Emaneti Mukaddese. Spending years in such a historically rich environment, filled with sacred relics, had always been a source of excitement for him. In his book, he describes the sword of David as a one-of-a-kind weapon. Tahsin Öz reports that the sword measures 101 centimeters in length, with a wide, double-edged, pointed blade. Near the hilt, there is a depiction of a human figure holding a sword in one hand and a head in the other. Below it is an Arabic inscription, alongside another script whose origin is unknown. On the last line, the names of Dawud, Suleiman, Musa, Harun, Yusha, Zachariah, Yahya, Isa, and Muhammad are listed. However, it was impossible to fully decipher the inscriptions, as many were only partially legible. Later, while searching the palace treasury, a copper plaque caught attention because it bore the same motifs as the sword. This plaque had 32 lines in Arabic on one side and 28 lines of the unknown script on the other. The image on the plaque was even clearer than the one on the sword. It depicted a ship with the year 888 inscribed below. This is where things become even stranger. The copper plaque, like the sword, shows a human figure holding a severed head, but there are significant differences between the two. The human figure on the sword is said to represent David, and the severed head is that of Goliath, whom he killed with this sword, as mentioned in the Quran. Many believe that Goliath was truly a giant, though the reality remains mysterious. However, the figure on the copper plaque appears different. At first glance, one might think it is David, but upon closer inspection, 2 horns can be seen on his head. Moreover, the marks thought to be legs are actually lines from the Arabic alphabet, and the figure's inverted feet resemble those of jinn. Therefore, researchers believe this figure represents a jinn, a creature from the 4th dimension, rather than David. Under this figure, there are inscriptions in Vefk, a form of talismanic magic associated with jinn. Similar inscriptions also appear on the sword. According to a note on the plaque, the sword will one day be handed to the Mahdi. When we turn over the plaque, things become even more intriguing. This side describes the journey of the sword through time, with a coded ship bearing the date 888. Here is what these inscriptions say. Ali reports that this sword and plaque were found in the treasury of King Melik Mukavsk, the Lord of Egypt. There was a message in Syriac and Hebrew from David on the sword. It says, "When Goliath stood against me, my Lord taught me how to forge a sword and an arrow. After my victory, Allah Azza wa Jal granted me success." One of the unique features of this sword is that on one side it depicts a man holding a sword and a head, while on the other side, a figure sits on a throne. The severed head represents Goliath, and the figure on the throne symbolizes Solomon, representing his power. This blessed sword would later pass to Yusuf, then to Zachariah, then to Yahya, and finally to Isa. After Isa, the sword would be passed to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. After his death, it would be given to Abu Bakr, and then inherited by his son, Muhammad. Ali bin Abu Talib would appoint Muhammad as governor of Egypt. After his death, the sword would return to Yusuf. It would then remain hidden until the year 880 of the Hijra. It would then pass into the hands of the Ottoman state until its end, to be used by believers during the time of the Mahdi. Allah be pleased with them all. Afterward, the sword will be handed to the Mahdi, then to Isa, who will slay the one-eyed Dajjal with it. Allah Azza wa Jal and His Messenger revealed these facts as part of the hidden sciences. Now, there is a very important detail in these inscriptions. The sword, which traveled through many hands across the ages, returns at some point to Yusuf, who lived centuries before David. How is this possible? It seems as though we are talking about time travel. But that's not all. The inscriptions appear to predict the conquest of Egypt 50 years before it occurred, and even mention the future dissolution of the Ottoman Empire. At a time when such a statement could have cost someone their life, the Ottoman sultans carefully preserved these relics. Now let's focus on the image of the ship, in which some researchers believe the date of the end of times is encoded. This is one of the most studied mysteries of the sword. Years ago, a researcher named Serkan Tekin claimed to have deciphered this date. Here's how he did it. On the copper plaque, it I.S. written that the ship contains 8 cabins, and the first 3 cabins conceal 3 letters, Mim, Alif, Ba. These letters represent the number 43 in the science of Sif. The word ship in Arabic is safina, and it corresponds to the number 205 in Sif. The number 8 in Arabic is thamaniya, which equals 606 in Sif. The ship is surrounded by 7 lines on each side, and the number 7 is Saba, corresponding to 137 in Sif. At the center of the ship is the inscription Alelehu, which equals 135 in Sif. On the ship's left side, the number 880 is inscribed. If you add 43, 205, 606, 137, 135, and 880, you get 2006. To the right of the number 880, there is a single cabin representing the first month, and slightly to the right of the inscription, Alelehu is the number 12, which gives the date 12 January 2006. The researcher thought this date was the key to the mystery, but when nothing happened on that date, he realized the code had not yet been fully cracked. As we all know, the date of the end of times is a secret known only to Allah Azza wa Jal. Perhaps He revealed it to the prophets thousands of years ago. This mystery seems destined to remain unsolved. If you are curious to see the sword of David Alayhissalam and its plaque, the Topkapi Palace Museum awaits you. As we hope to preserve our history and values for many more years to come, let us remember that the date of the end of times is known only to Allah Azza wa Jal. But the real question may be this: is humanity ready for the apocalypse? Whoever helps to do a good deed for Allah will receive a share of the reward. Whoever helps in doing a bad deed will receive a share of the sin. Allah sees everything and rewards everyone according to their deeds. So I encourage you to subscribe to help us grow and reach a wider audience, perhaps including non-Muslim people who might be inspired to embrace Islam through our content. Remember, he who facilitates a good deed is like the one who accomplishes it. If I made any errors in my remarks, please forgive me. These errors are my own and do not reflect Islam or the words of Allah. I hope to see you again very soon for a new video. Until then, may Allah keep you safe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.